Cheers. Welcome to Culture Night,
where each week we drink fancy wine and watch movies that are in some way culturally significant. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Sarah, and we are back for Season 5, Episode 4, right smack dab in the middle of our RomCom season. Mm-hmm. So welcome back. If you've been following along, welcome. If this is your first time, if you enjoy our podcast, rate, review, like, subscribe.
Do all those things.
You know, welcome to tonight.
I don't think we have any podcast business tonight.
I don't think so.
So let's hop into what are we drinking this week?
This week, we are drinking the Odd Lot 2020 Petit Verdot blend from Monterey County. California. I really messed that up. So sorry. I didn't write it down.
Is this our first one not from Paso Robles?
I think so.
Oh, man.
This is just, so to be honest,
it's not too far from Paso.
Right. We have had this wine before. It has been a while, but it is one of our kind of go-to grocery store wines. We want something that's not from our Tobin James super nice collection, but we want something that we know is pretty solid. And this one has so far been pretty consistent for us.
Pretty good. It's two of our favorite varietals there.
Yes, Petit Syrah and Petit Verdot are pretty good. I am interested, though, to drink it in the context of this, where we're like really sitting down and thinking about the flavors of the wine and after having, drank so much wine that I'm excited.
We don't have podcast business, but should we do an impromptu in honor of the fact that I think the NFL draft starts like today or something, a quick varietal draft?
Okay.
Just do like 3 rounds.
Okay.
So
we each get 3 varietals of grape.
Sure. So I'll go first, and I'm going to grab Cab Franc.
I knew that would be your favorite. I will take Petit Syrah.
Ooh, good choice.
I mean, that is like obviously my favorite.
I'm trying to think of what might go next. I think it's kind of somewhat tied between Petit Verdot and regular Syrah.
It's been a long time since I've had a regular Syrah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot of like generic ones that you can see everywhere, and I don't think I'm really going to pull any of those. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to go with the Petit Verdot next.
I think I would probably, have to take Syrah next then.
Mm-hmm. Then I feel like we really start kind of going down. I feel like I'm missing some really obvious ones.
So I'm trying to like mentally, let me pull up our Tobin James list real fast. Lagrange, Pinot Noir, Primitivo, Cab Franc, Merlot, Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot, GSM, which is Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. Tannat and Tempranillo. Chardonnay, Zinfandel, Cab Sav.
I think I know my next one if you know your third one.
I don't know my third one, but you can go ahead.
I think my third one, I'm going to go with Sangiovese.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. It's very fun to say, but also I think it's like a little spicier, and it's just a good, solid.
It has been a minute since I've had Sangiovese.
I've ever had a bad Sangiovese.
Well, I'm going to be going to the store and see if we can locate one of those to try. I guess
Riesling next for you?
No, definitely not. Chianti? Is that a region or?
The Chianti, I believe it is a region, but I believe it's also the name of the grape there.
If it's the name of their grape, the Chianti, all of the Chiantis are fantastic.
I just the Chianti Classicos were pretty underwhelming from when we were there.
I don't know. I mean, I drank a lot of them. I thought they were pretty delicious. I think that's usually one of my go-tos while we're at the store. Mm-hmm. I can enjoy a good Merlot.
Good Merlot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we started out kind of strong, but I think we probably, it tails off pretty quickly. I think if I had a selection of them
I was going to say, if you'd given me like a little bit more warning, I could have had that prepared.
Retaste some of them. I think I could come with a really good, solid list.
But I think we have a pretty, like we know at this point, we've drank enough wine. We've been to enough wine tastings and vineyards and had enough experience where we know what we like and what we don't like.
Yeah. I will also give the Pinot Noir an honorable mention.
I was going to say, I thought that was going to be an obvious choice for you because you love Pinot Noir so much. I always think of you. I will say all the Pinot Noirs we've had on the pod have been pretty excellent. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just the ones from the grocery store that are not so good.
Maybe. Yeah. I think it's probably got a high ceiling, low floor.
Yes.
All right.
So that was fun. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we are drinking now. Go from that into what are we actually drinking and tasting it, and
the Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot from Odd Lot. Let's try it. I feel like my allergies are really killing me on the whole smelling portion.
I had a really good first smell, and then now I can't smell it anymore.
Any of our viewers on the East Coast know that we are deep in the pollinating. And
everything is yellow.
Abysmal being outside.
It is all yellow.
Taking 2 24-hour Claritin a day, and it's rough, but
I mostly just get like alcohol on the nose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about all I get. Let's go ahead and go to taste.
It's very dry.
Mm-hmm. Not carbonated. That's a plus after last week.
It already is going to have a higher score than the wine last week.
A little bit of tobacco.
I can see that. And I hate to use the word leathery because I don't think it really makes sense, but I'm kind of getting that like earthy, leathery. I love a good earthy wine.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
One that's just full of dirt.
You're really selling me on it.
I know. So far, I mean, this holds up. I still stand by the fact that this is one I will continue to get from the grocery store. Mm-hmm. I know they have
sweet, pretty dark.
They also have Odd Lot also has a red blend, I believe, that I see regularly. Just a plain red blend. Not sure what's in it, but this one is consistently been delicious for us. So we will continue enjoying it and let you know our scores in the after show. And I guess now is it time to go behind the screens?
Sure is.
And in behind the screens, we go behind the big screens of Hollywood to learn more about some aspect of film production or storytelling.
It's been really tough for you this season.
I've just been having a really hard time.
I'm going to start making you practice that every night before we go to bed.
Yeah, I think I just need to hear myself say it in one of the older ones because I had it really down. And now
I could tell when you started out, you're already second guessing yourself there.
I think I've gotten in my head about it. It's time to go behind the screens, where each week we go behind the big screens of Hollywood and learn more about some production.
You almost had it.
I know, I sounded so much better. Learn more about some aspect of film production or storytelling. Take it away.
Crushed it. So this week we are learning about the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Ooh, interesting. I love it.
So pop quiz. What's the difference between the Academy Awards and the Oscars?
They are the same.
Okay, I was today years old when I found out that.
I did know that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can never. I know that there's one where they're the same,
mm-hmm.
and it's this.
I had heard rumors.
So you get an Oscar, but it's called the Academy Awards, right?
It's an Academy Award. People refer to them as the Oscars. Do you know why they call it the Oscars?
I do not.
No one knows. There are theories about like, oh, this person looked like my Uncle Oscar and all sorts of things.
This might be my favorite behind the screens yet.
Yeah. So I feel stupid in not knowing they're the same thing, but less stupid in why are they called the Oscars? No one knows.
So I used to be really into the award shows. I would watch them with my mom every year, and it was fun to like see all the dresses and stuff, but they are long shows.
Yeah. I think it's like a running joke now that they always go over.
Yeah. And like, I feel like it's also gotten to the point where I don't really see a lot of the movies, or I don't watch as much of the current TV. Plus, like, how do you even watch all the TV shows that are nominated for this anymore? There's so much out there that I have never gotten really into it as an adult. I do find it fascinating.
Yeah, I think now there's kind of a debate of whether things like Netflix movies should be nominated and whatnot. And I think they are opening up to that. I probably should have researched that for this, but I did not. There's a lot to unpack, but most of the Wikipedia article, which was where I did most of my research, mostly went into like a bunch of statistics, which is interesting, and I'll get into some of that in a little bit. Mm-hmm. But for now, I want to go into some of the history of it.
Yes, I love it. Love old Hollywood.
For sure. First, before I go into all the history, though, there's actually, it's the only category in which every member of the Academy is able to submit a nomination and vote on the ballot. I guess the other ones are kind of like if you're musical, if you have other musicals and whatnot, I assume. It's also the last one of the night, which is probably why I never stay up watching all the way to that
for
point.
Best Picture.
Yeah. I know it's a big thing. It's always the last one. It's probably not worth staying up because you can always just figure out the next morning what it was. Mm-hmm. So the very first time it was awarded was the first Academy Awards in 1929, and it was called there were actually only 2 awards at the entire show, so it must have been really short. Probably actually ended on time.
Oh my God!
There was Outstanding Picture, which was won by the movie Wings, and Unique and Artistic Picture, which was an award that was dropped the next year because no one really knew what it meant.
I was gonna say, aren't all the best pictures unique and artistic in some way?
Right. And they disallowed a movie called The Jazz Singer because they said it was like its own type of thing because it had like synchronized sound to it. So that to me would have been like unique and artistic, but they're like, no, not that. And then I guess everyone was like, what do you even mean then?
Interesting.
So also that next year, they changed the name from Outstanding Picture to Outstanding Production. So it's awarded to Well, it was originally awarded to a member of the production company originally. So it was referred to as the Outstanding Production Award until 1940. Then they renamed it to Outstanding Motion Picture for 3 years. And then they renamed it to Best Motion Picture until 1961. And now it's from then on been known as Best Picture. So it was originally just one person from the production company was awarded that honor. Just a representative would accept it. But I guess people got kind of jealous of it, and it started kind of expanding, and more people started coming up with them to get the award. So they had to kind of reel that back in a little bit and limited it to say you had to be a producer, as in not a executive producer, co-producer, associate producer, line producer, or produced in association with it. Literally, your screen title had to be producer. And so then people started adding more and more producers to the movies so they could get the award. So then they limited it to only up to 3 people could receive that award. But then there was an exception for if 2 people always worked really closely, they could be considered just one of the 3. There's all these like really
Hollywood is wild,
right? And they've got these committees that basically decide whether or not that's allowed or not, and what is allowed to be considered one, or is it 1 year they were allowed to have 4 because then they awarded it posthumously to some whole lot of drama.
So now I understand why you were sitting on the couch typing your notes for so long. There's a lot to unpack here.
It's like it'll lay out the rules and be like, here's the rules, but except in situations where, and then it changed, and that was too like it's a lot. So I didn't realize that it was just awarded to the producers of it. I assumed it was
everybody.
Well, I assumed it was like the director.
Yeah.
Person, but it makes sense that it'd be kind of the producer. However, there is a really tight link between Best Producer and the Best Picture award. In the 96 films that have won Best Picture, 69 of them also won Best Director. And there's only... So,
wait, there's a link between the Best Director and the Best Picture?
Yes.
Okay, you said Best Producer, so I was confused for a
second. Best Picture and Best Director.
Okay.
Of the 96 times, 69 of them both won. There's only been 6 times ever where the Best Picture was not nominated for Best Director.
Interesting.
One of those being the first year because that award didn't exist. True. So really 5 times. But it's really kind of interesting to kind of see that linkage. It makes a lot of sense. When a movie like really blows up in a year, I think a lot of times it's like, well, we're just going to associate half that to the producer, half that to the director, I guess. Steven Spielberg. So now we'll get to the stats a little bit. Steven Spielberg holds the record for most nominations at 13, despite only winning once.
Only one time? The Steven Spielberg has only won one time?
Most nominations, 1 win. Kathleen Kennedy has been nominated 8 times and never won. So holds the record for that. And the most to ever win it is Sam Spiegel and Saul Zaentz, who both won it 3 times each. So it's really kind of tough to win it multiple times.
Obviously. Oh, sure.
Obviously, there's only been 96 times and so many movies, whatnot, but very tough to win that, especially more than once. Obviously, if Spielberg has only won it once, then...
Yeah. Do you know what he won it for?
So the one that he won Best Picture for was Schindler's List.
Ah.
So kind of makes sense. I think he's done a lot of like really good culturally significant movies, but I feel like that one's a bit more of like the heavier, more bold
drama
tone. There isn't really a criteria for what constitutes Best Picture, whether it needs to be like most bold, ambitious, or anything like that. But I think a lot of times just popular blockbuster type ones like Jurassic Park and whatnot generally don't win it. Yeah. It's more got to be a little bit deeper than that.
I do feel like we should eventually do like a Best Picture season and just do like 6 or 8.
Yeah.
Just pick them look at the list and see what ones we actually are interested in watching and pull them from there. I think that would be really interesting.
Love to do that. And my last stats is that since 1968, when the MPAA rating came to be, the rating that has had the most winners was rated R. And there's only been 1 G-rated film ever to win. That was Oliver. And there's only been 1 X-rated film, now known as NC-17, and that was Midnight Cowboy. The G-rated film and the X-rated film won in back-to-back years, 68 and 69. So it went G to X in back-to-back years.
Interesting. Maybe they were like really trying to overcompensate for choosing a really childish
averages out to PG-13 there. So that ends my behind the screens on the Academy Award for Best Picture, also known apparently as the Oscar for Best Picture. But interesting stuff there.
Well, I'm glad that there's no reason for it being called that, because I've been wondering for really my whole life, and I've been meaning to look it up recently, but now I know that there's just.
Because I saw there was nothing on the Wikipedia article like about it at all, so then I googled it and it was like, oh well, no one knows why. Here's a bunch of theories.
Interesting. All right. Well, thank you. That was very enlightening. I'm so fascinated by old Hollywood. I wish there would be more like movies about old Hollywood or TV shows. There was that one kind of weird Hollywood
called Hollywood, but it was more about like the sex behind the scenes than anything.
But I mean, I feel like that's all it was anyways, but I need more. And I think that's why I really enjoyed, and of course now I'm not gonna be able to think of what movie it was, Singing in the Rain, because it was kind of that old Hollywood setting, and I thought that was really interesting. Okay, so wraps up Behind the Screens, and now it is time to jump into our Slept On It segment, where we are going to revisit Annie Hall that we watched last week. Does your rating change after sleeping on it? You rated it a 1.8, and I rated it a 3.7 on a 10 scale.
No. If anything, it goes lower, but I think I'm just going to keep it at the 1.8. It just was not my kind of movie. Surprisingly, I don't know, I kind of like movies where there's a lot of dialogue and it's really interesting. It just seems so whiny that I just don't have any desire to go back and watch it again. Didn't really enjoy it. Not going to quote it. 1.8.
Yeah, I think I will drop my 3.7 back to a 3. Yeah, I was talking to my mom before we did this and was like, oh, we watched Annie Hall last week. Like, we're going to talk about it a little bit tonight. She's like, oh, yeah, I saw that in theaters. It was very progressive. Like, everybody was talking about it at the time. And I was like, I guess so, but we just thought it was weird.
I think it probably had some like cultural impact in that some movies, like When Harry Met Sally, I think probably were influenced by it. But I liked those movies better.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so something that you mentioned doing, I don't know, I guess 2 weeks ago now. I'm all jumbled up on when this actually happened, but talking about Rom versus Com, and that's not something that we revisited in last week's Annie Hall discussion. So I don't know if you want to explain your Rom versus Com situation.
Just kind of trying to feel like on the scale for rom-coms, romance versus comedy, where it falls on the spectrum. Is it more romance? Is it more comedy? Is it somewhere in between? Is it neither? So I think if we're talking still about Annie Hall. I think it tried to be more of the com than the rom. I think it kind of failed at least for my sense of humor. And for the most part, I think I had a couple laughs in it. Yeah. But for the most part, I just feel like it probably trends more towards the rom, if anything. But I'll probably give it maybe I'll score at both on a scale of 5. So for the comedy aspect of it,
I thought we were going like percentages, like 50-50 or...
Yeah, but I'm looking at this one and I'm like, some of them I feel like aren't going to be really good at either. So maybe we give it a...
Okay.
Or we can do it on a percentage. What do you think?
I don't really care. This is your deal.
So on a scale of 5, I will give it a 1 for rom and a 1 for com.
I figured you'd be giving it well, on percentages, I was thinking it's 50-50. Like, it was not overly romantic. It was not overly comedic. I do remember laughing. Obviously, it's about their relationship, so it has their romance in there. Yeah, I think maybe I might give it 2 and 2. I do and it was not necessarily my humor per se, but I understand that there was a lot of comedy in how they were doing things. And I liked the comedy of breaking the fourth wall and all of that kind of stuff. So
I think maybe if I lived in New York at that time, I would have loved it a lot more, but I didn't.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not my kind of movie for sure. All right. So now it's time for a fact snack. And I have a couple. There's actually a lot of very interesting information out there on this one. So first of all, we talked about last week, Christopher Walken and, where this fell in the broad range of his career. Also, he's 81 years old. It's crazy.
I think he kind of reached max age and has stayed that way though for a while.
That's what I thought. So he had done a lot of work prior to this, but it was mostly in theater. He started working in theater in 1952. So he only had 7 film roles, or this was his 7th film. So it was really early on in his film career, but he had mostly done theater acting before this. So he was still relatively new.
Wild to see him in the theater.
Right? Especially he looked so young in this that what did he look like when he was on his
young
theater
for
days?
him. He didn't look young overall.
True. So that's my Christopher Walken recap. And so kind of back to the rom versus com situation, this movie wasn't actually supposed to be a rom-com. It was supposed to be revolve around a murder mystery.
Ooh, spooky.
And then as the script came together, and I think as they were working on it, they ended up dropping the whole murder mystery part and just leaning into their relationship. So I'm curious of what the original draft and stuff looked like with the murder mystery.
I don't even know how that really would have worked to have been some even close to the same movie.
Right. I don't know. I didn't dig too deep. Remember, these are just snacks. It's not a full meal. So that rumor's out there on the internet.
Sure. Okay.
And then I included this fact snack in there just because it's things coming full circle a little bit. Truman Capote actually makes a cameo in this when they're in the park and he's giving commentary on all the people walking by. I'm sorry, when there are people watching. And, this guy wins the Truman Capote look-like contest. It's actually Truman Capote. And Truman Capote wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's. So
what about Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Yeah, so Truman Capote wrote Breakfast at Tiffany's, and then he's in this. So although it is not an actual ding, it's like a half ding. So I thought that was interesting. So we love the titles and the history of the titles and the working titles for these movies. The working title for Annie Hall was anhedonia, which is a term for the inability to experience pleasure.
Sounds about right.
Which tracks when you know the movie, okay, I get it. But marketers were concerned nobody would understand it. And check, yeah. I think that's for sure. So they started suggesting other ones, and then some of the other titles. I think these are the best suggested titles besides A Boy's Life that we've come up across so far. The first one you're gonna love. It Had to Be Jew.
I feel like he got a lot of pleasure out of suggesting that one.
Oh, I'm sure. The other ones include Roller Coaster Named Desire and Me and My Goy, boy with a G, capital G.
Okay.
And then there were over several test screenings. He tried several other titles, including Anxiety, and the other one being Annie and Alvin, and then they eventually settled on Annie Hall. So this, talk about roller coaster. The titles for this were on a real roller coaster.
As far as they didn't try When Annie Met Alvy, is that what he went by?
Yeah. And then back on again to the name of Annie Hall. It is actually kind of a tribute to Diane Keaton because her real name is actually Diane Hall and her nickname is Annie. So
interesting.
A good thing they got her to play the part. Otherwise, that would have been weird.
Yeah, I was going to say she must have been associated with it from the very beginning then.
Mm-hmm. And then my last fact snack is that it won 4 Oscars or Academy Awards. And it won for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, and Best Screenplay. And I also believe I read that it was Woody Allen was nominated for Best Actor, but I don't even think he showed up at the awards. He wasn't even physically there for this movie. So I loosely skimmed
Probably
that.
Didn't expect to win because I still don't really understand why I would have won.
Yep.
Must have been pretty slim pickings that year.
Definitely. So that wraps up my fact snacks. There was a lot of really interesting stuff out there. I just tried to choose some of the interesting stuff. But any other thoughts on Annie Hall?
Nope. Let's slam the book shut on that one.
We are ready to move on and jump into what are we watching tonight?
Tonight we are watching Mystic Pizza from 1988.
Woohoo!
It is rated R. And now let's hop into our time machine. Back to 1988.
Which we have been in before.
We sure have. There's only been so many years. And we have had a lot of episodes.
Yes, this is episode 48.
Sure. So the top 3 movies released that year were Who Framed Roger Rabbit, grossing $151 million, Coming to America, grossing $128 million, and Good Morning Vietnam, grossing $121 million.
I apologize. I did not look to see if this movie was on the list. I can imagine it was not.
I don't think it was 4. We'll see. The top 3 songs released that year were Faith by George Michael, Need You Tonight by INXS. Got it right this time.
That's for you, Amy.
And Got My Mind Set on You by George Harrison.
Yep. I know Faith.
Yeah, definitely know Faith. Apparently INXS is a band. And Got My Mind Set on You. I've probably heard it. Who knows?
Yeah. One day we will actually sit down and listen to all of these, but that day is not today. So have you seen this movie before?
I think I have seen a bunch of it. I think when I was younger, probably 10 or so, my mom was watching it. And I think I saw a bunch of it, but I don't remember too much, except for maybe 5 minutes worth. Mm-hmm. But I don't know the overall premise of the movie.
I have not seen it, and I know literally nothing about it. I actually was smart and covered up the artwork, the images, Google Images, when I searched to figure out the year and the rating and all of that stuff, because I know nothing about it. I do kind of feel like this was one of those movies that would be on at 11 o'clock at night on ABC Family, or when we were younger. I was about to call it Freeform.
There was no Freeform
because I was like, what is this movie? And I would just try to find something else that was on TV. Because I feel like I've definitely seen the title before, and it was one of those kind of odd on at a weird time, or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're like, who wants to sit down?
Seems like a real TBS type movie, maybe. I'm really upset that I have seen enough of this where I don't want to give a full prediction because it's a really fun title and I could have gotten real creative with it.
I'm really disappointed. I did not know that you had seen parts of it before because I was really looking forward to your guess of what it was going to be about. I imagine that it is going to be around like a kind of going off of your thing from last week of Mystic Pizza is like a restaurant and it takes place in this Mystic Pizza restaurant or has something to do with being in a physical like restaurant building. And that's where their meet cute happens. And
it's a bold prediction thinking that has to do with pizza. We'll see.
I don't know. We did have pizza for dinner tonight in honor of this movie. I was going to bring the box down so we could snack on it while we started talking, but I'm still a little full.
People are probably happy they're not listening to us smack on some pizza into the microphones.
Very true. Very true.
Sorry, creeps.
All right. Anyways. Okay. So I think that about sums it up for our before show. And we are ready to enjoy some more wine and enjoy Mystic Pizza. Cheers.
So Mystic Pizza.
Mystic Pizza.
Mythic Pizza.
Mr. Pizza. Anyways.
We can keep going.
Let's just go ahead and jump right into the wine scale. Why don't you explain it to the people?
Our wine scale is generally a very heavy weighted scale this season. However, for those of you who are joining us relatively new, but kind of from the past, it's a little bit different this season. We are drinking medium shelf wines in the spirit of just some cheap RomCom. So just your general about arm level when you're at the grocery store, not top shelf, not bottom shelf, just arm level at the off the shelf wines. That being said, our wines are going to be a bit more of a realistic scale, meaning that it's 0 to 10 as usual. However, 5 generally means pretty good. Below 5 means probably don't get it. This wine, I'm going to give it a 6.0.
I was going to give it a 6.5.
So we're right kind of a line there. Yeah, it's pretty good, pretty pleasant. Not going to blow your socks off. I definitely recommend it.
And like we said, we have gone back to it multiple times at this point. This is a staple for us. So I enjoyed it the whole way through. It was not overly complex like the Tobin James wines are, but like it was delicious.
Yeah, nothing to write home about, but also not going to regret getting it.
Also, now I'm really regretting, though, not going into Kroger to make a reel, recording my arm, reaching out to get all of the arm level wines off the shelves.
Arm level shelf. It's a phrase,
scientific method.
It's a thing. It will be. Heard it here first, folks. So moving on from the wine rating,
the movie rating.
To the movie rating.
I have mine if you're ready. I'll give you a second if you need a second.
You can go first. I'm kind of formulating a bunch of things.
All right. My movie rating out of 10 for Mystic Pizza is a 7.1. 7.4. 7.4. I'm just kidding. It was 7.4. That's what it was pre-decided. 7.4.
6.4.
Okay.
6.8.
Yeah, you're allowed to change. I changed.
6.8. I liked it. It was pretty good. Honestly, better than I thought.
It's way better than I thought it was going to be.
There was a lot more to it than the tiny little segment that I remembered. A bit of some good actual comedy there, some different styles of rom in there. So it's a pretty good rom-com.
Yeah. I mean, going to your thing, I probably wouldn't quote it, but like I would definitely pick it up if it was on TV. I very much would like to see it again. I enjoyed it. There were some good laughs. I loved that it was also like, it wasn't just like one relationship. It was kind of exploring 3 different relationships. And then, but also like you had their friendship too. So it wasn't just all about the relationships. Like I kind of feel like there were 3 relationships, but it was like about their friendship. And then the relationships were kind of like the secondary character to that. And it just was cozy 80s. Like it was the fall in New England. They were wearing sweaters. Like, I mean, I loved it.
The setting definitely did it a lot of favors.
And you mentioned the soundtrack too. Like it was just like, there was just so much little things where I was like, oh, that's like really nostalgic and cozy. Like, oh, I would totally love to watch this again. Like,
and I can't think of any quotes off the top of my head, but I feel like there were a couple quotable lines from that.
And my favorite quote that I'm going to start saying when Julia Roberts dumped the fish in his car and she was like, I fucked up.
Gave it 100% effort.
100% effort.
Yeah. I need to add that to my bag of lines there.
We were laughing so hard. That one was so good. I loved that one.
It's going to come in handy someday.
Yeah. I'll be recovering from that one for a while. Anyways, why don't we hop into our movie description? We could go on and on about the movie, but we have plenty of time.
Movie description is a bunch of related love storylines in fall time in New England with a bunch of women and love and antics.
This is your best description.
I got nothing. It's the pizza is kind of a side character to all of this, but it is the thing that binds them all together. But
3 young women that work in a pizza shop in Connecticut explore young love.
Is that the TV description?
No, that was the one I just came up with right now. I'm going to tell you the TV description now, but I was just helping you out.
I think it said that, and it was really hard to not just quote that.
The description, succinct, according to the TV, is 3 teenage girls come of age while working at a pizza parlor in Mystic, Connecticut.
Like 15 words?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Good with calculation.
Oh my God. Yeah. Teenage girl, like, was Julia Roberts really still a teenager? Like, were they still teenagers? I was imagining Julia Roberts and JoJo to be like 21, 22.
Yeah. I mean.
And Kit Kat to be like 18, 19.
The fact they're just all constantly casually drinking beers, but also the drinking age was different at a time. I don't know when this supposedly took place or when the laws changed and everything like that, and whether or not they were like actually breaking laws or just being just normal people. Yeah. I also think the actors were probably a bit older than.
Julia Roberts was 21. Oh. And I think JoJo was 21 too.
Well, there you have it. People just looked older then.
I think maybe that's why I assumed they were that age, because I was like, well, she's 21 in this. And I think Kat was 19 or 18. Like,
yeah, people just look different in the 80s. You age different. There's no sunscreen, no rules.
I thought they looked great.
Was the movie what you expected?
I mean, my prediction was something about working in a pizza shop. I said they'd meet there, but like no one really met in the pizza shop, so that doesn't really count. But I was not expecting the 3 different stories. I was definitely not expecting little baby Kit Kat to fall in love with a dad. Ugh.
Yeah, that was weird.
I'll get into that later, but like the specifics of it, no, but it was pretty much, it had a lot of the classic 80s things that I think of like with an 80s movie. Also, is it just me, or do like so many 80s movies take place in the fall?
It was a good time.
It just seems like a really, like the fall in New England was just like the prime time for the 80s in my head.
Off the top of my head, I can think of Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, that was 1993, but
I know, but it was like fall New England time.
I guess E.T. was in the fall, but it was in California.
LA, in the cornfields of LA.
Yeah. I mean, the cornfields made me think it was in the
right.
in New England. Anyways, it seems like a cozy time in the 80s.
Yeah, movie being what I expected. Not really. All I remembered was the part with the movie critic, or not movie critic, the restaurant critic, and that was a very small part of this movie, but that was all I remembered. So that's why I was like, as the movie started, I'm like,
very minimal storyline.
I was like, is this a rom-com or is this a like restaurant not teen, but like somewhat drama thing? Like
dramedy.
There's clearly some love interest in there.
How well did it age?
Fine.
I thought it was great. I mean, the hair is a lot smaller these days, but I mean, the clothing styles are coming back in. So
love those sweaters. Yeah, some of the things, like, I feel like they don't make blonde guys like they did in the 80s.
That's something he's been really on lately.
You don't see guys looking like that anymore. Is it like, do they just like cut it all short?
I don't know.
You don't see any blondes anymore, especially after age like 24. Look at me. I was blonde at one point, if you can believe that. And it turned brown and gray.
I know, but you're beautiful.
Thanks. Just isn't something you see anymore.
Could this movie be made today? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there would probably be some slightly different things, less calling people on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Like, are you saying, like, was there anything that stood out where it just, like, didn't age well, where you're like, oof, like, they couldn't have done that? Or are you saying, could a 2024 version of the movie be made today? And I think the answer...
I think for both is yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it would probably be a bit more over the top, like, Two Broke Girls type thing. They definitely wouldn't be able to pay for college with like a little bit of money from the working at the pizza shop to go to Yale for more than a day. But for the most part, I think it seemed
Yeah, I thought it aged fine.
Yeah.
Could definitely be made today. Did they say the title of the movie?
Mystic Pizza?
Yeah.
They
Oh
said
yes, the Mystic Pizza. So I forgot that they actually like that actual pizza was called that, because I was trying to think, like, did they actually say the name of the restaurant, or was it just like I have to work, or really vague? I feel like it was only actually mentioned in reference to the actual like pizza.
Yeah, I think they obviously showed it a lot on the merch they were wearing, but really it was only when the food critic ordered the pizza. It was like, oh, I have that Mystic Pizza.
Well, it was just confusing because all their shirts say a slice of heaven, and I was like, is the pizza place called a slice of heaven? But then like if you like the back of some of their shirts say Mystic Pizza, I don't think all of them said it. I don't know. It was confusing for the first couple minutes. But yes, they did say it.
Yeah, I was so confident, like, yes, they said it. And then I was like, actually? But yes, he did order the Mystic Pizza.
Were there any actors that went on to do bigger things?
Oh, you skipped the title fit the movie.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Did the title fit? I love it. It seems like such an 80s thing to just, like, it's not like exactly what it's about, but I think it fit. I think it's fine. I like it. Like, it's where their friendship is centered. And just like, you know, like kind of like how when they talk about Friends, it's like, you know, about that time in your life where your friends are your family. And like, I just feel like that's like the time of life that they were in is like it was centered around being the pizza place. I'm trying to think
of other titles. And a couple minutes ago, the Rent thumbnail was just cycling on the screen on our TV. So all I can think of is Seasons of Love as being a thing, but it was the only one season.
Yeah.
Season of Love.
The Season of Love.
I think it could have been a good one. You know?
It was a pretty good season.
Yeah. So maybe that could be a different title, but otherwise I think it's a pretty good title. I liked it.
I liked it.
Were there any actors that went on to do bigger things?
Buckle up. Everybody. Not everybody. I mean, Julia Roberts, this was like her third movie or something.
Yeah, she's done a lot more since then.
Yes. This was before Pretty Woman. This was super early in her career. Little baby Matt Damon was
in the most minor
Charlie's
role.
brother. Yeah.
He was 18, but just had like the most minor baby role as the little brother, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
The actress that played JoJo is still acting and is in Manhunt, which we want to see
on Apple TV.
On our list, not sponsored, but like, you know, Apple TV, if you want to sponsor us, we're okay with that.
You're so funny.
The woman that owned Mystic Pizza was a main role on 2.5 Men for many years.
Wasn't
the guy that played
Billy? Is that his name?
I think so. He Vincent D'Onofrio. He's been at so many things: Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Full Metal Jacket, probably a million other things I'm not thinking of, but he's been in a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely a lot of like a very young budding crew of actors.
What impact do you think this movie had on pop culture?
I don't think it impacted a lot of other things. I do think it very much fits into like a cookie cutter mold of 80s and 90s rom-coms.
For sure. That's what I was going to say, is that it seems like it was just kind of taking a whole lot of the elements of just those classic 80s rom-coms, especially the soundtrack.
Like the jazzy background, instrumental background music.
A little bit of synth in there.
Oh,
fantastic.
It was so good.
And just some of the really cheesiness of the rom-com. And yeah, I think it itself just seemed like it was more of a sign of the times than influencing things to come, really.
Yeah. And like, obviously by my score out of 10, this was my favorite, but like, this was like my favorite so far. This is what I was looking for when we started the season, was just these like feel good, like lighthearted. Yes, there's some like deep and harder stuff in it. Like, you know, people break up and all that stuff, but like, I just leave this with this like, oh man, that was good. That was nice.
It was very charming.
Charming.
Endearing.
Yes.
Do you feel cultured after watching it?
Honestly, I think I do, because I mean, I've just heard, I mean, like with a name like Mystic Pizza and being born in the early 90s, you hear it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where it's not like it's in and of itself is that important, but it's one of those like, have you really seen all these 80s rom-coms if you haven't seen it type thing? Yeah,
and also being so early in Julia Roberts' career too, I feel like that, like, obviously you're going to feel cultured, like, oh, this is kind of where she started.
I feel like we're going to see like SNL parody some scenes from this like this week, just because I feel like that's how things have gone recently.
I hope so.
We see one of these movies where like think nothing of it, and then suddenly we see it like referenced or parodied or something in a bunch of things. So that's my bold prediction for the next couple weeks.
Love it. Also because I just love watching SNL. But anyways, I believe it is your turn for notes.
All right, I'll go first. My first note was that there was some amazing sarcastic Photoshop in the opening credits.
Ooh, We both were like, oh.
It's one of those things where it's like supposed to show these girls like kind of like growing up or always being friends. They were clearly photoshopping the actresses' faces onto maybe some stock photos, or maybe it was a situation where like one of them had a picture from the childhood and they just photoshopped the other two on there. Some of them were real bad.
Yeah, I mean, 1988 Photoshop. It
Like
doesn't cut it.
Didn't quite fully match like the direction the head was facing.
And I feel like,
or the
like certain times, like you could kind of see the other person's hair that they were photoshopping it on, like outside the outline of the other, like it, which didn't look good.
Maybe on like a crappy CRT TV you wouldn't have noticed, but here it was pretty painfully obvious.
Yeah, 100%.
But I've always like thought about that when they show movies and they show like younger versions of the actor or actress, and you can clearly tell that it looks very much like them. I'm like, did they reach out and they were like, oh, you have like you have a kid that looks just like you, or a younger sibling who's younger that we can use their pictures of, or can we find your pictures from your childhood and just like put them in this movie? Or nowadays, do they more just rely on Photoshop and things like that?
From the rewatch podcasts I have listened to, a lot of times it is their actual childhood, early life photos, which I think is pretty cool. Like, I mean, if you're already putting yourself out there as an actor, actress, let's put in a couple young childhood photos of you out there.
It's like, you're like filming this movie and the director or someone comes up and they're like, hey, do you have any pictures of you as like a 7-year-old playing soccer by chance?
Soccer was what I was going to suggest.
Yeah. My next note was the wedding was called off and JoJo's complaining of like, oh, my father paid like, or sunk $5,000 into this.
I have a note of that too. My dad's $5,000 in the hole. And I was like, only $5,000?
$5,000 in 1988. Worth now would be $13,290. So
that's a pretty cheap wedding now.
Right. Nowadays
that's a real cheap wedding.
It's like, what is the average wedding in 2024?
We looked up the wedding average cost of a wedding when we found out we were having another daughter, and it was $30,000.
It's $33,000 this year. So yeah, even by then, not that much. Obviously they did not come from money. It was, whatnot. It's still not great to just like sink or lose $5,000, but it was just kind of funny to be like, oh my gosh, $5,000. That's like the deposit to get
that's just the deposit for the venue.
Yeah. To just even be able to walk there is, it's blown up how expensive weddings are.
Was our wedding an incredible day? And did I have the best time? 1,000%. We had so much fun, but was it way overpriced? 100%.
And I think they overpriced it because they know that there's lots of
slap
bridezillas
wedding
out
and bride
there.
on there, and they'll jack it up. It's so ridiculous.
I just feel like if you got a whole bunch of bridezillas there, you're just like, it's going to be awful. So at least some of the time, I'm going to go ahead and just make it way worth my time if I'm going to go through all this.
Which is not fair because I was the opposite of a bridezilla. I was like the chillest human on the face of the planet. That I should have gotten like a discount. Like you get a chill discount. Yeah, we're just sure. Oh, I have to pick out table linens. I don't. What color you pick? Sure, works.
Whatever's already on the table.
We were so easy.
Moving on to my next note was that I just loved all of the sweaters.
I know. We talked about them the whole time.
I'm a sucker for a good cozy sweater.
This man has been on the hunt for a cozy cable knit sweater for 2 years. He finally got one this winter, and it was unfortunately like not really cold enough for you to really enjoy them, but like he loves a good cable knit.
Yeah. I love wearing them. I appreciate when I see someone else really pulling them off. There are a whole bunch of really good sweaters in there, and just like Henleys and just all that fall vibe.
What's his face? The dad. His gray Henley was 10 out of 10. The perfect like LL Bean cozy vibes.
It's just killing me because right now it's late April. We're so far away from
sweater season. Yeah. Sweater weather.
It's about to just get really hot and just not sweatery.
So if you want to move to like
New England,
Iceland,
there.
I'm really leaning into the sweater. Where can I wear sweaters year round?
To wear a lot of sweaters some parts of the year, but hella worth it.
Yes.
My next note was they keep showing them going out at night or in like the evening. It's a small pizza shop. They don't have that many workers there. Shouldn't they all be working those nights? Like, wouldn't that be kind of like prime time of like, oh, it's dinner time on like a Friday night or do you think they're going out on like Mondays when people aren't?
I assumed they were going out later, like at like 9. I mean, I imagine a New England in the off season pizza place is going to close at like 7.
Yeah, but Julia Roberts is like going to that guy's parents' house, and it's like still like twilight.
Well, yeah. Well, she said that her sister was supposed to cover for her the first time, so I think there's some kind of like rotating shift situation.
I guess there's something they were kind of like out of the prime times of like when a pizza shop should really be like bumping, but
I didn't pay too close attention to it, but I just usually assumed that it was either like 9 or later past that peak hour. Obviously, I know people love to order a pizza, late night snack, but I imagine in small town New England, that's not something super common.
Close at 8 and just done for. My next note was when they were filming that scene where they're all in the truck and they're singing RESPECT. I feel like they really, the director or like producer of the movie really wanted that to be like an iconic scene. And I don't think it was.
Because they were definitely singing and they were not on key.
But I think they wanted that to be like an iconic, like with Wayne's World where they're singing Bohemian Rhapsody, like another one of those like scenes where it's just like replayed all the time where people imitate it. I don't think it really was.
Yeah. Also, like when did Respect even come out?
Probably before that.
I was going to say it just seemed like kind of outdated in my mind. I mean, again, we were not born in the 80s, so I don't really know where it falls in on the times, but it seems like they could have picked something that was a little bit closer to the times.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they were really, like, Respect was really the thing they were fully lacking there. Or they were fighting for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a catchy song. It's going to be stuck in my head for the next couple of days.
It seemed like it was kind of awkwardly
fit.
placed, in my opinion. My next note was that when the wife of, what's his face? Nick?
Phoebe's dad?
Whatever.
Travers is their last name.
Sure. When she comes back, I was like, she looks like she's 50 years old. And I think you looked it up and she's 35. So like a year and a half older than I am now. And I'm looking kind of gray, but I still feel like she looked significantly older. I don't know what it was in the water in the 80s.
I mean, he looked young, like much younger than her. And so it wasn't actually written in one of my notes, but I was going to talk about it. So he is 29 or maybe even 28 in this movie. He is the age we were when we had our first child. And he has Phoebe, who's like 6, 7, 9. We don't actually really know. They might have actually said it. We kind of zoned out after she said she was 9. And I was just like, man, they're like, he has his life together.
Yeah, they're showing
he's only 29.
They're showing him like he's got everything figured out, and that he's just this like sophisticated older dad who, for some reason, decides that he's.
It's because he wears glasses that he's sophisticated.
And just the blonde hair. It just does things.
It unsettles him so much.
Yeah, just not natural.
Yeah, it was very weird. I just don't understand. I love that they explored it because I know that happens and that's something. And I mean, he was only 29. It's not like he was like 40 and she was 18. Like they were only 10 years apart, which like at this point, if she was 29 and he was 39, not too many people would really bat an eye at it as much as
it's funny because she's like such a cheesy, like cliche, like cheap porno like type thing. And the fact that Julia Roberts even like called that out and then like she still like went ahead with it just kind of made it, I guess it seemed less unrealistic given that they'd already kind of referenced it like, hey, this is really silly. And she still went ahead with it. Just felt very odd.
Teenage girls in love, you can't stop them.
True.
Teenagers in love, you can't stop them. It shouldn't just be specific to girls.
True.
I mean, when you're a teenager and you like somebody, it is hard to...
Hormones, hell of a drug.
Regardless of like how horrible the situation is, how mean they are to you and how little respect they have for you, but you decide you like them, you just can't undo it until something truly egregious happens. Like their wife comes home from being in London.
Yeah. Why was she in London for? Like, that's really cool. Let's explore that a while. Right?
But honestly, stay in London.
She would have had some fuckboys in London. We don't know about that.
Right?
We didn't explore that. Maybe this is in the sequel.
Oh, so I did see that the dad is in a Christmas movie on Hallmark called Mystic Christmas, and I'm like, oh my god! And I didn't look too deeply into it, but I am like here for a potential sequel.
Oh my god, we'll do it for the pod. This Christmas. Look for a bonus.
Stay tuned.
That's all I had for notes.
All right, I will jump into my notes now. My first note is Julia Roberts. No clue she was in this. Did I know that maybe at one point in my life? Maybe. As soon as after I said it, I was like, oh, okay, maybe I did know that. But it was not on my radar today at all going into this movie.
It was one of the main things I knew about this movie.
That's why I said I tried really hard not to look at the pictures because I didn't want to be spoiled.
Very impressive.
So my next note is all the facial expressions as JoJo's walking down the aisle. And I'm just imagining the person with the camera that has the like veil draped over the lens and all these people having to react at the camera. And I was just dying laughing, enjoying like all the expressions of the people that are like supposed to be like oohing and awing over her. But
I
it's
hope
just
they
like,
film that last.
oh yes.
It's even more fun.
So funny. And then I'm so glad I wrote this down because I wasn't going to say it if it didn't happen, but I said she is definitely going to pass out. Because just like the way she's looking, and I'm like, oh shit, this girl is about to have a panic attack and just like absolutely pass out. Which I get because like apparently according to this movie description, she's only a teenager. And if I was 19 and getting married, I would probably be having a little bit of a panic attack as well.
Yeah, it seems like, I guess, like somewhat par for the course for like small town, whatever. But it just seems that part kind of would be a bit different. Like if they remade that movie today, I feel like the girls would be older because it's just not as common to get married so young, I think.
Yeah, 19 felt early. But I mean, again, in my head, regardless of the fact that that description said they were teenagers, I was assuming she was at least 21, 22, like early 20s, not in college, and just living her small town life, which honestly doesn't seem that bad. I have another note a little bit farther down that says she was talking about taking over the pizza place, like, oh, she'll retire, she'll give me the sauce recipe, I'll take over this pizza place. And I'm like, honestly, in that cutesy little town with your little fisherman husband, you can live like the coziest, quaintest little life, and I think there are worse things in life.
But back to the age thing, like I had seen the description before I pressed play because it's like 15 words, and it was like coming of age for blah 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 these women, and then it starts and it's JoJo and Julia Roberts. I'm like, coming of age. I would have said coming of age would be like they're like 15, 16, and like
yeah,
really young.
High school to me is coming of age.
But then they're like out there and they're drinking beers and they're working full time.
Sorry, they're drinking Miller Lights exclusively.
The official beer of Mystic Pizza. And I'm like, I wouldn't call this like coming of age. It's more like a young adult or young post high school, college time. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily label it as coming of age.
No, I when you say coming of age, I think 15 to 18. My next note, we talked about the $5,000 for a wedding. And okay, so she faints at the wedding. They don't get married. And they speak like 4 sentences to each other outside the pizza shop several days later, a day later. We don't really know how long it is. And then all of a sudden they're making out. They say nothing of substance. She doesn't explain why she was feeling pressured. He just talks about how everybody's looking at him. And then she says, let him look. And then they're making out and they're back together. Like, that's how you get back together? I'm sorry.
Well, and they almost get married. They call it off. And then it's like, what, like 3 months later they get married again? Then I'm like, that must have been some really great, like, small town gossip there.
Oh, 100%.
But it's just like a weird timeline of like, you got the wedding called off, you're making out again, like it back and forth. Like, people must have been gossiping nonstop about it.
100%.
What else they're talking about in the off season in small town New England in the 80s?
Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, I just was like, and I just can't believe they get back together that quickly. Like, I understand like getting cold feet and being nervous, but I was kind of expecting them to just like elope to the courthouse or have something kind of like, obviously they had up having the reception at Mystic Pizza. So it's not this like crazy over the top reception, but I just kind of assumed they would do something smaller to like alleviate her stress more than anything else.
I'm just going to go ahead and wager that based on the bumpiness of that marriage, like kind of trying to launch, probably didn't last very long.
But I really appreciate, like, I do feel like they had that, like, I feel like they worked well as a couple with the exception. I feel like she was just like, I'm very young. What are we doing? Why are we getting married? I mean, so in the wedding scenes, I did not like that he had the shaved face. Because at first I was like, I don't really think this guy's very attractive. But then when he comes in with his little tiny beanie and his like scruff, I was like, okay. And she's like 5 foot nothing, and he's like 6.5 feet tall, and he just like picks her up and puts her in his pocket, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a really hot relationship right there.
Should I go like work on a shrimp boat or something, or lobster boat? Okay, I'll smell a little different, but
yeah, you need to grow. You need to grow a couple inches. I need to shrink a couple inches, and you need to like really bulk up.
And you need to like learn to like seafood.
Yes. I mean, I'll get there eventually. Okay. My next note is 3 shots of tequila. No way. One time in my life in college, I can't specifically remember what I had. I know I had wine before I went out, and then I had a shot and a shooter within the first like 30 minutes, not like back-to-back shots. And I was at the bar for an hour. I was throwing up, and I was like, we need to leave. And obviously he's a dude, whatever. But like 3 back-to-back shots, you would be literally, no way he could be playing pool. Like, he would be under the table.
Well, it wouldn't hit him that fast.
Well, and that's why I thought that the bet was stupid, because you have to take a shot of tequila in between. That's not going to affect him throwing the darts in there. Seeing Julia Roberts is going to affect him. But actually, his dart throwing is not going to be affected by the 3 shots that he takes in the like minute it takes him to throw all of these. But like, no way he would have been able to play pool with her. Like, it would have gone downhill quick.
So after freshman year of college, New Year's Eve, I was going to a party, and one of my friends had a whole bunch of like alcohol that he had somehow gotten from like his brother or whatnot. I'm going to this New Year's Eve party, and so I stopped by his house. I'm like, hey, I'm going to this party. Can I get some alcohol? And he's like, sure, I've got this tequila. It's pretty weak though. I think it's like only like 20% alcohol. Turns out he'd kind of done the math wrong on like the whole like 40% alcohol being 80 proof. He thought it was like the other way around. Thought it was really weak. Gives me some like, okay, cool. Some really cheap, like weak tequila, but I'll get to this party. I'll just down it really quickly, catch up to everyone. So we get to the party, pour myself 3 shots of this tequila. And some of the people there are like in high school. So I'm trying to like kind of show off and be like, oh, I'm a college kid. Like I can totally crush this. And I crushed these 3 shots like back to back to back. And I realized very quickly, this does not seem like very weak tequila. I went from 0 to 100 very quickly there, but it's really funny because I was like, I think I've done it ahead of time where I had 3 back to back to back shots of tequila. Yeah. Doesn't go down great. The first one's fine. Second one's not great. Third one's pretty rough, going like literally just pounding back to back to back. And yeah, it hits you probably about 15 minutes later. You're just like, yeah, really feeling all that tequila. So about the time that he would have been playing that pool game.
Right. I mean, obviously he didn't play for very long because Julia Roberts runs the table, but like, oof.
Yeah, I feel like the way they portray people taking shots in movies is not quite realistic. They'll
the most
people at movies,
inaccurate.
In movies at bars, and they'll just like rip like 8 shots of tequila. And I'm
like Greatest Showman, when they literally rip shots for the entire song that they sing, and I'm like, dead. All of you.
There needs to be an SNL skit where like they do that and they start dancing and they just immediately all start vomiting.
Or dying. Like literally someone dies like 100%. Again, at SNL, we're just here to write your sketches for you. That's it.
I just really need like the whole like them taking shots, start dancing. One of them kind of like is like makes a face like, I'm not sure I feel like this. And then just like vomits everywhere. It'd be hilarious.
Yes. Preferably like Sarah Sherman. She would make her an excellent like vomit all over the place face.
I think she could play a really good like young Zac Efron, but also I could see her dressing up as Hugh Jackman, so it'd be really funny.
She can do the whole thing.
If we're doing a Greatest Showman parody,
because that's what. Anyways, we'll move on, but we'll kind of stay on the same note because we also just need to talk about in the pool scene, his friend that had the turtleneck with the button up over top of the turtleneck. I don't know if it was like one of the fake turtlenecks, but the friend that was with Charlie, he was wearing a like Kelly green, like the Masters green turtleneck with a yellow button down over top of the turtleneck. And then he also I'm pretty sure he still had his jacket on or a sweater or something over top of the layers. The sweat this poor man must have endured while also trying to play pool.
And this is like early fall too. It's like that really cold in there. You're in a bar, but also those colors, like just it doesn't seem like it's real coordinated.
No, it looked like the Masters. It was yellow and green. So that just made me giggle.
Turtlenecks have not fully come back, but I feel like there's somewhat in some ways people are pulling.
I feel like women can wear them. I feel like men look kind of dweeby when they do it, but I think like the right styled turtleneck a woman could pull off. No offense. Okay, and then I have 2 notes left. I already talked about JoJo taking over the pizza place. Seems kind of nice. I don't know, just a nice cozy little family run place. My last note is, imagine having to always have coins in your pocket to make phone calls.
Be ringing and jingling all the time.
Like, and to have the right coins to be able to make the phone call and to like continue making the phone call if you need to. It just seems like a pain.
Well, that, and they also had the flat tire on the side of the road, and they had to try to like bum a ride somewhere so they could like call someone about the car. When Julia Roberts was at the whatever dinner party and wanted to like leave, she had to get a ride home with the friend that happened to be working there as
she was trying to call Kat in the first place when she was babysitting or like making eyes at Mr. Dad.
The phone was off the hook.
And the phone was off the hook. She couldn't get in touch with her. I mean, there were several instances where like not having a cell phone was a noticeable plot point.
Live?
Right?
It just seems so inconvenient.
I mean, we got our cell phones, when we were like 15-ish.
And they all got smartwatches.
And just like, we are pretty much, our whole like functional lives, we've been able to get in contact people if we been able to get in contact with people if we've needed to. But I just like, especially just having to have coins. Women's pockets are not designed to hold that much
so that
change.
Little pocket inside the
jeans.
Yes,
I guess there's technically one that's like what, a quarter.
You hold your 1 quarter so you can make your one phone call.
Hey, that 1 quarter is to get my card at Aldi. That's it. That's what I carry a quarter for these days. Otherwise, I have no use for change.
Yeah.
So that one just made me giggle. But overall, I just like really liked this movie. I just feel really happy and cozy. I'm excited. Like I said, I feel like this is what I was expecting from rom-coms, and I kind of expect this to just build. Like we're gonna go into the 90s, and it's gonna be another something like this. I'm really hoping it's like another New England fall movie, because then that would just like really make me extra happy.
Could make it a New England fall season.
Oh,
that also
oh my God. Look out. Next October, we are coming at you with a just like cozy fall New England season. And it's going to be so great. And we're going to wear sweaters. Oh my God. We're going to have the best time.
Can't wait.
Anyways, if you are enjoying the podcast and you would like to leave a comment or rate and review, like, subscribe, all the things, we would really appreciate it. If you want to follow us on Instagram to see all of our funny reels and any behind the scenes stuff that we feel like sharing, you can follow us on Instagram at Culture Night Pod. If you have any comments, concerns, recommendations,
emergencies,
and you can email us at culturenightpod@gmail.com. If you have any spare change in your pocket, you can just go ahead and call us at 1-800-CULTURE-NIGHT-POD. With that, I think we're tired and need to go to bed. So we will catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.